So what I would like to talk today about is how to automatically create tests with Playwright Bot. It is not a recording tool, as you might know. It is using AI and generating the tests based on some data and context we could collect before we will start doing that. Before I will start, let me introduce myself. For those who don't know me, I'm Marcel Veselka. I am a passionate tester. Most of the time I'm spending now on the technical topics like test automation, especially in web apps. And I'm building a startup called Wopee.io, where we are building autonomous testing bots. And I will be talking about autonomy soon. So I will explain the term because some people are asking what's the autonomy about. So let's start. If you would like to share some more data or details about you with me, this is the QR code you could use. I'm always interested. Who is interested in the topic, and where are you coming from? And also, if you fill in this form, I would like to share the tool I will be presenting today with you. It's open source. It's NPM package. You can play with it. And to be honest, I'm also searching for some volunteers to test it and give me some real feedback from real scenarios. So if you are interested to join this experimenting and prototyping, you can use the QR code. I have it a couple of more times during my talk. So if you will miss it now, you can scan it later. Maybe you might decide later about that whether you want to join the testing or not. So let's start now. So what I prepared for today, I would like to quickly introduce you the idea of autonomous testing. I have one slide for that, so it'll be super quick. I don't want to spend too much time on that because I'm running these webinars for last 2 years and keep repeating myself. So I felt a bit sorry for those who are following me, and that's why I made it today for one slide. Then I will be introducing also some ideas about augmenting Playwright with some LLM or AI features. And then I will show you, I would say, old prototype I built a month ago or so. And you could find more details on YouTube if you would be interested. I will just quickly run through that and explain the idea behind. And then the main topic for today is the prototype number 2, which is NPM package, where I'm searching for the volunteers to help me figure out how to set it up so other people from community could use and benefit from it. Again, the QR code, as I promised, there will be a couple of more times here with us if you are interested to get access to the package and give me some feedback. This is the way how to get in. So what's the autonomous testing, or what's the term I am presenting, as I said, a couple of last year about? I am trying to super simplify it. There is a lot of definitions, a lot of articles out there. So if you are interested, I can share with you after this talk some more details. But basically, autonomous testing is focused on reducing humans from testing activities, especially the annoying ones where we don't need to do it manually, or we sometimes call it automation. But this is one idea behind. And second one is bring more AI to help us to achieve that. I could see that still more and more people are popping up, so I need to also deal with that in the Teams, but I hope they are now with us. And I will mute again everyone. Welcome. So this is a super simplified view on autonomous testing. We are trying to reduce manual or human efforts in our testing practice, not only in test automation, but in general also in all other manual activities like planning, test design, and so on. And I will be talking about this in more details and more practical. This is very high level view. So let's move on now to the second topic, and this is kind of this AI augmentation, because that sounds strange for the people who heard that first time. This is basically the idea and a lot of other tool vendors and other people in testing talking about how we could bring these AI ideas into software testing. And in my case, very specifically, I will be talking about Playwright testing. I won't touch anything else, but these ideas could be used in many or with many other testing frameworks. So let me explain what I mean by this AI augmentation for Playwright tests. So maybe 18 months ago or 16 months ago, I built this very simple prototype when I was delivering one of my first talk about autonomous testing and how to set your... Yeah, okay. I will mute someone. Hopefully now it's okay. I was delivering this talk, and one of the idea I had behind was some coded approach where we could benefit from already existing LLMs. In that time, the LLMs were there. So I built a simple tool, and this simple tool basically did the thing that it take that English term, navigate to login, and automatically transfer this into some instructions, some locators. So this was one of the prototype I built, and I could easily get some instructions to execute this without searching for any locators, any test data, anything. And I was able, by simple putting Wopee Copilot fill form with some specific data. Very quick and short video about that. This was the page I was playing with. So this fill form function was able to fill in the data and sign in. Once this finish, you can see a logout button on the right top side. So this was very early prototype when I was thinking, okay, this might be good, but that's not good enough to really help us in our daily practice. So how I could go further with that? I was keep playing with the idea, so I was able to run it against various URLs. I was getting different locators to see that it could interact with the app I am testing, but still it wasn't good enough. So I was keep working on that. The next generation was that I integrate these ideas into our BDD approach. So I built something like BDD Copilot, where I was generating all the low-level code by LLM, and I was writing only the Gherkin file. So that was the second iteration. And now I would like to talk about the third one, where I'm building package for any TypeScript or JavaScript Playwright test automation engineers or testers or developers, where I decided to build it in a way that you provide a URL, we crawl it, and based on that, we are able to collect the data to generate user stories, tests, and at the end, we could generate the testing code or test script, if you wish. Of course, that require some review as you go through the process. And this is something my understanding during my last month, because I was too excited about the idea, and I believe that you could generate code from URL. And it is not in that state yet. So I will show you how it works in a couple of demos soon. But what I found out that we could generate the code from simple URL. Let me now move on and tell you some or show you some more details about it. Let's start with the first demo. As I said, I'll show you a couple of demos, and we will deal with first prototype, which is built in interactive Python notebook. If you don't know this tool, it's basically some combination of Markdown language and Python, so you can really quickly prototype some ideas. So what I did, I took Playwright Python implementation and built very simple crawler to collect HTML files, to collect screenshots, and then I minimized the HTML files to be able to easily work with them in or with LLM. So how it worked, this is the implementation. That's actually the notebook I built. You could see that there is a mixture of markdown with some code snippets. And basically what I did, I execute entire steps above to get user stories and test cases. There is some code behind which is not probably so important. The logic behind is that I'm feeding LLM with some data from the app I crawl, and I'm getting user stories and test cases in Markdown. This is still not part of that test automation. It is more automating test analysis and test design. Some people find it interesting because you could basically document your existing application, but this is something what brings me closer to the code I could generate later. So you could see that I generate these test cases and user stories based on the simple URL. And to make it maybe nicer to see the details, this was the screenshots and these are the user stories. So I took that data out to my slide so it's easy to maybe read. And I could see that based on the screenshots I collected, I could get some user stories with some business priority. Later, what I did with that was that I generated test cases. So the test cases looks like this. I had some test case ID, user story related to the test case, some preconditions, and some test case description, steps, and expected result, and some priorities. So that was the next step in that generation because I felt, okay, we are talking about test automation, but all these steps are still so manual these days. So how we could automate them as well. So that was done, and I felt like, okay, I have a test cases already prepared. Now let's generate a Playwright code. That would be so easy and so fun. And I wouldn't say surprised, but I found that there are still some challenges if you are considering to doing so. So the next step, what I did was I generate the code. And what I found out that, of course, as many LLMs, in my case, OpenAI, I used for the prototyping, also hallucinated because the locators looks like almost good. But the data used were not very good, and there is no dashboard in my app. So that was pretty strange assertion. So what I decided to do next, I start thinking about a lot of details. This is another example. When you are submitting some checkout page, the generated code was assuming that there is one field for card number, but there are 4 fields for the card number in my implementation. So these were typical challenges for the generation to generate the code. So I felt like, okay, there are already realistic scenarios, and I could start using that in some way, but it didn't reflect properly HTML I provided, and I need to run it a couple of times to fix the code and so on. So I keep working on that to improve how that could behave. So what was the next stage? I was thinking, okay, I'll need to run the test, I'll need to collect the failures, and maybe feed back the LLM to get some fixes proposed, and then I could finalize the code. So I would basically iterate over, but providing some more context, some more data to my LLM to get the data back. So this was one of the things I believe will dramatically improve how I could fine-tune my code. But still, I believe that human is involved in this, but it will speed up our test automation heavily if we could implement this in that way. Same for the expansion. When you crawl the app, usually the simple crawler would just collect the basic scenarios. But if you have something more specific, you need to tweak the code and maybe bring more business related data to make the scenarios better. And to do so, what you could do is that you basically rerun the same approach, but you already provide your existing testing scenarios. So you are getting better scenarios by doing so. So that was the another idea. So one was how I could dry run and fix existing scenarios. Another one was that I will need to probably run it together with existing code, enhanced by some humans to understand better the business logic. So that was the next step behind the next idea. And I was doing a couple of experiments. And one of the things I find out that if I run it again and again, I could get better results. In this case, I was testing very simple use case. I would like to see whether my 404 page works as it should. So I let the LLM generate some test case for it. And I could see that it already reflects all the HTML and all the behavior of my app because I rerun it again against the app to find out where the generated tests are failing. So that was the next one. And later I was playing with the idea that I will take only simple URL of application under the test and I will generate entire Playwright project. And this worked, but I gave up by analyzing and collecting the feedback from the people who saw it 1 month ago, that this might be too early to go to that direction. Maybe we will come to that, but I think humans need to be involved in these steps to review. You need to generate the user stories and review whether the quality of the user stories is correct. You need to generate the test cases and you need to review the test cases whether they are still correct and reasonable for you. And then you need to go again to the code you generate and you need to review it. So that was the idea behind. I felt like I don't need to do that. I will just generate from URL directly the entire project and we are there and everything will be nicely working, but it didn't. So that's the era of the prototype number 1. I felt like this is brilliant, it'll work, but there is still too many things to tweak. So I decided to completely rewrite it into TypeScript to bring it into NPM package world and provide it to some community members or someone who would be interested to help me to experiment with that, to find out how to tweak it, how to make it better, to use their use cases, to run it against their code, their application. And based on that, we could easily bring this into our project. So, and I believe I could provide it to a couple of you for the exchange of feedback. So, and later my plan is to completely publish it, but now it's still pretty raw, to be honest. There are still some failures because you miss something in configuration and so on. But what I am now building is that you basically set up your OpenAI key. In the future, I'm considering also to use some other models. So you could just set up your LLM. If you have your local one, you could use local like Llama. And then there are a couple of commands already prepared to run. Like I could create a user story. I could crawl the page, then create a user stories, create a test, and then generate a code at the end. So this is all prepared and ready. And I would like to just quickly go through short demos to show you how it works. And hopefully I will get some questions. So if you could use chat, paste them there. If you have some ideas how to improve it or what's missing, I would be happy to read it through in a chat. but this is basically what I'm now building, and you can start playing with that. But I could promise you now that it's not ready. It's not ready in a shape that you could use it in your project, but I believe in a couple of weeks we could get there if I could find someone to help me with. So that's the idea behind. Let's now move on to some couple of demos. So let's start with the URL to user story. This is something what I built as a first prototype, and it's basically copy paste. The idea is copy paste from the previous prototype where I was building it in Python notebook, and it has two steps. First, I need to crawl the app I want to test, and second, I generate the user stories. So to crawl the app, you just need to run npm run crawl, and it collects all the necessary data, and it places it into your project. So you might notice soon that there are some files created, which I collected through using the bot. Of course, this bot is super simple. We are building much more advanced bot in our Wopee.io autonomous platform, but this is good enough to do some first tests. And I plan to later integrate it with our platform so you can have more advanced bot, or you could build your own bot, or you could collect the data from your test execution. So if you have already some tests prepared, you just collect HTML files and screenshots easily. And I also experiment with Figma pictures. So apart from standard crawling, you could also get this by providing into the folder just screens from Figma. So but for that we cannot easily generate the code because we don't have the DOM to generate all the locators and everything, but at least we could generate the test cases and user stories. So for that case, you could use this approach. So this is first demo where I'm demonstrating how to generate using crawler and user stories command the user stories. To make it easier to read, I don't know whether it's really getting the point, but I'm trying to simplify it in this simple table. So this is what was generated. Now let's move on to the second step. So what would happen? I have these user stories. The next step would be I need to manually review that generated user stories. I might need to tweak them. I might need to change the business priority. I might even decide to remove some or add something what's missing. And once I have this is input for the next stage, next step. So I have already my user stories prepared. So next step, what I would need to do is to generate the test cases. So how to do so? It's super simple, even more simpler than the previous one. I just run npm run test, sorry. And what it does is that it generates the test in Markdown format, and basically that's it. I had a couple of ideas, like maybe I could generate something to feed into Jira or TestRail or some other tools. It's not there yet. It could be done. It could be done easily. It could generate JSON instead of Playwright, JSON instead of Markdown, and many other ideas behind. But this is, as I said, very raw and very first prototype. And before I will build it further or enhance it, I am really focused on getting some feedback. I don't want to build something which might be exciting for me, but it won't be useful for other people. That's why I'm building in this way. So I have my test cases already generated. One of the things I notice is that I'm not getting consistent results. So sometimes I'm getting 16 test cases, sometimes 14. There might be in different, I wouldn't say style, but written a bit differently. And this is because of the prompts and temperature I'm using. So this is also something I'm still testing and might or has to be fine-tuned and might vary model to model. So these are the test cases I generated. Again, based on my prompt, there is some test case ID, some mapping to user story, test case description, prediction, and so on. It's a bit different than from the previous prototype because I'm still keep working on the idea of outputs, how they should look like, what it should cover, and so on. So this is basically the second step, or actually third out of 4 steps. So once I have this, I could start generate from test some executable code. And I noticed that Buddy raising his hand. So if you have any question, please paste it into chat if you could. If not, please wait and we will cover all the questions at the end. So now what I need to do next, I need to build the test scripts or the code based on these tests. So how to do that? I have another demo. What I'm providing to LLM is all the HTML files, test cases, and some a list of URLs. So this is something what give specific context to the LML to generate the code. And now let me show you the demo. I'm running again just npm run code. And in this case, notice the test folder on the left side. There is just one file. So what it does is that it generates a couple of more files with some test cases. And you might notice that I had, I don't know, 14 or 16 test cases, and it looks like all the tests were generated in individual file. I don't like this. It'll be fixed maybe tomorrow, but I didn't have time to improve it before this talk. So I decided to keep it as it is. But there are a couple of things I already know, or a couple of bugs I already know I need to fix it before I will involve other people to test. So hopefully next week it'll be ready for the first brave ones. And let's see. This takes, I think, 1 minute and 30, if I remember, but now it's done. And you can see that the tests were generated into test folder, and you can see also that there are some specific tests based on the previous one. I will quickly move on to the next slide where I pick up just few. One is this verify proper error handling for 404 error. This was one test I've got, and I felt like maybe this is almost good enough. So I navigate to some non-existing page, and I'm checking whether there is the to have text and have to have text for these two cases. I don't like it still. I would rather move this URL into base URL parameter. So this is one thing I will need to improve. And probably I will also define some better guidelines for the asserts in my prompting. But the idea behind is that once you run that bot, it will generate the code. Another thing I believe I will be missing for a couple of maybe weeks, I will need to collect all your edge cases and use cases and all that strange situation where you get strange data or strange results. So I could fine tune the final output. So it's not there yet, but I could see some positive signals from what was generated. You could see that second example is very similar to the previous one. I'm navigating to the specific URL, then I'm filling in the data, and I'm checking, and this time proper URL. Even it's not nice, but in this case, it's checking the right one, but validating login is not good enough by just URL. In this case, as I said, there will be better guideline for writing asserts. I will need to build that as a part of the tool. And what could help here is also some visual testing we are building. So maybe if I would collect the screenshots and compare it, that would help as well. So this is basically very simple 2 examples which were generated. I don't like also that comment on first line. So this will be removed in the next version of Playwright AI bot I'm building. So what are the future or further ideas behind? So you could see I could generate from basically URL or some data, user stories, test cases, and the code at the end. And but still, this is very simple. I have some Playwright npm package, and it calls LLM. So what I decided to bring here, and it's just very raw and very bad slide, but I would like to share some more ideas. What happens when I was building this? Sometimes I didn't get the proper result. Sometimes I've got like half of the result from OpenAI. So the stability issue is important. And one of the idea how we could solve it is just implement some retries in generation. So this is one of the things. Another thing is I will need to implement something for dry runs to improve the code by getting the failures and improving that in the second or third iteration. I would like to introduce more LLMs, especially for those who are worried to share their data outside the organization. Nowadays, there are already models if you have enough budget to build the infrastructure, so you can build it in on-premise. And I would like to also experiment with other models because I found that Anthropic Claude might be in some cases better than OpenAI. And also I would like to let the other people use other models and give me feedback and maybe bring to other of us some ideas which models might be optimal for using it in terms of money or stability or quality of our outputs. For me, the OpenAI was good enough to prototype it, but I would like to push it further. What I would like to also introduce is some company standards, some guidelines, how you want to call your files, how do you want to structure it. Would you like to follow some page object model or many other topics which might be included into that context before you start generating any output out of it. So all these things I would like to bring in. And as I said, there need to be a lot of fine tuning of the prompts. And apart from this standard LLM, I will need to start building some kind of agent, or I need to go to that direction and bring some array, like rack database to store the data and some memory, because now it's like one-time shot. And I believe if I could keep the history, which we could learn from, or your bot could learn from, then the efficiency of this approach would be much, much higher. So this is basically almost the last slide before I have 15 more, but that one will be just closing. So if you are interested, if you feel like this might be a good idea to try and maybe help me to finalize it, maybe by January it will be ready for your team to use. Or if you would like to build your prototype based on that and share with others, I'm more than happy to help you to set it up initially and collect some feedback to fix the bugs, which are definitely there. So just use this link and scan the QR code and you can join me. We are building this into simple UI where the dream and idea behind is that once we have just simple URL and we will return back test reports without any touch. We are not there yet. But if you would like to find out more, check out this nice tool we are building. It's already generates some scenario. It could run them and give you some result. It includes also visual testing, and you could also integrate it as a simple visual testing tool with Playwright. But it also does some more stuff not only the visual testing. We start with visual testing, but now there are a couple of more ideas behind, like non-visual validations are there as well. It has autonomous testing bot, and it works in a way that it basically crawl your app, learn from it, generate the testing scenarios as I show you, and then run them for you and provide some dashboard. This is just idea we are building, and what I'm now sharing with you is just one simple component or the algorithm which you could build or bring to your teams. As I said, the NPM package will be completely free. You could use it. This tool is paid, but we are trying to share what we learned from building the tool to the community so you could use it later. If you would be interested in more topics about autonomous testing, I would love to talk to you how we could reduce your efforts in testing, how we could make you more efficient using some AI augmentation or AI testing algorithms, whether it would be using our tools or our know-how. We are providing both to our customers. So sometimes we prototype together for very specific cases our customers have, and sometimes we just deploying our tools which are already ready. If you would like to reach me out later, you can use the email, of course, or we could chat via LinkedIn. Actually, that QR code will bring you to my LinkedIn profile. I really like building a network, so feel free to just request connection so we could become a LinkedIn friends. And that's it for today. There is only one last part, and that's your question.